For the investors that are walking out of the room, you're making a big mistake. I sincerely believe that you'll find this to be one of the most compelling micro-cap stories you'll probably see at the conference. And there's going to be 48 companies here over 2 days. We're not all created equal. There's about 6 companies out of that 48 that have a market capitalisation less than us. But I don't think any of them are as interesting as us. So I think, I hope that over the course of the next few days you'll keep Southern Gold in the back of your mind and compare it mentally with the sort of stories that you see, and hopefully you'll come to the same conclusion that I did. There aren't too many companies of our market cap that actually have this going on, which is gold production. When I gave the presentation last year, we were still producing, but we weren't yet in cash flow positive territory. We're obviously at the payday end of the pit. That's the most enjoyable part, and we're really rocking along there, and the miner, Westgold, are doing a fantastic job of managing and running that pit. So it's in good shape, very exciting next couple of months, and indeed the year ahead, which I'm sure I'll give you a good feel for. I'll draw your attention to the disclaimer and Ian Blucher as our competent person. So Southern Gold is a story in 2 parts, and I've got a lot to cover, so I'll hopefully go along in a fairly quick clip. But we basically have our core business, if you will, is in Kalgoorlie. That's where we've got the Cannon mine. We think there's lots of opportunities for other potential near-term production opportunities, but we also would characterise it as having about 6 projects that we highlight at a high level. South Korea is an acquisition we made last year, surprises a lot of people. I hope to give you a good flavour for that today, and I think it will surprise you. It's a fascinating country, huge potential. It brings a lot of blue sky to our story. Again, potential for world-class discovery, a fantastic jurisdiction to operate, and again we have 6 key projects that we're working on there. Oops. Corporate strategy. So this gives you a flavour for the way we think about managing the business going forward. A lot of what we do, I instruct the geologists to always look at projects in the sense of focusing on the cash generation, not your sort of pet geophysical project. So we always are critical of how we turn projects over and how they might be turned into cash going forward. And we don't necessarily have to be the operator. In the same way, if we've done the deal with Metals X or Westgold, we're quite happy to give some of the farm away as long as we can monetise some of these assets. We have a very tight capital structure, which I'll tell you at the end of the presentation. So I'll present to you the assets in the company and our potential, and at the very end I'll give you the company summary so you can bring that all together, and I think that conclusion will surprise you. We're looking to expand our exploration budget significantly over the course of this year, planning to spend more than $5 million during the course of this year. Drilling intensive, so a lot to drill. Add to the JORC resource base, get another production asset up and running, and develop a culture of technical excellence. But fundamentally what is sitting behind the company is a very good team of guys who are determined to find the world-class deposits. And we're trying to do it in a way which uses a model of organic funding. So we're monetising small, unsexy assets to provide us with cash to do the sort of exploration that we want to do. Sitting over the top of all this is a management philosophy of providing a return to shareholders. I think it would surprise people that we're talking about capital returns or dividends. Not too many companies of our market cap are talking about this sort of stuff, but we're quite committed to this process, and I think it will be a significant differentiator going forward. So our address in Australia is in Kalgoorlie. We've got half a dozen projects there. Obviously the top of the list there, Cannon, is the current open pit, but we've also got the potential for underground there with the Cannon Underground. But you can see here that we've got a land tenure position which is not that dissimilar to the mid-cap companies, our neighbours, if you will. So for a small micro-cap company, this is very valuable ground position. And I think to some extent this flies a little bit below the radar. So I think we've got a great set of tenements, and we're just about to get money so we can actually derive some value for them. So I won't go through every one of these projects in detail, but you will get a sense that we're planning to drill at quite a few of these over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. So what's underpinning our future and why are we in such a strong position? It's all about the Cannon Gold Mine and cash generation. So we've been talking about this for the last 18 months, 2 years. We're now coming into what I call the payday phase. So you can see on the timeline there that we're now about midway through that sort of process. We're now at the last segment where the back end of the open pit is now generating cash for us. That's a complicated table there, illustrating the way we looked at it when I gave this presentation last year in the first column, where we sit today with our life of mine estimates. And you can see there that the cost per ounce has come down from about 1,037 to 950 Aussie an ounce. And so that's a good trend. And certainly we're getting more gold, recoveries are tracking really well. And so the mine has been performing very well, which is a testament to Westgold's execution. You can see at the bottom right, I've tried to highlight what is the bottom line with all this. Well, we should be generating cash, which is circa worth around about 27 cents a share, which is around about where we're trading at the moment. So what I'm about to present to you in terms of exploration opportunities is, in a sense, you're going to get it all for free. So we put Cannon underground, we put a question mark underneath, at the back end of that because it's still no laid down misere. We've had some really good indicators that the system keeps going at depth. As the mine has been opened up, we're starting to get a good flavour for what's actually happening at the bottom of the pit where the high grade is occurring. So we're really putting that picture together. We're quietly confident that we'll find repeats of that mineralisation as we go deeper, as you typically do in Kalgoorlie. However, we've got to get drilling. So it's no kind of certainty, but certainly the indications are very good. In particular, last year we drilled a hole which was quite critical. It's only a very narrow intercept, but the important thing is it's what we call Cannon-style mineralisation, which is that very high grade at the bottom of the Cannon pit, which has driven all the economics. And we've found some of that deeper down below the implied structure that's been a constraint on our structural model, if you will. So what that does is it tells us technically that the deposit is well and truly open at depth. We just need to get in there and do the technical work. We did two deals last year. One was here at Glandor with Aruma Resources, and another one was with the South Korean thing. So this is quite important because the project was, a lot of people have worked on Glandor over a number of years, but it's all pre-JORC work. So you had workers like Western Mining and Anglo Gold. I estimate there's quite a few $1 million of drilling that we've got in our database out there. But we've got to go through an exercise of confirmation drilling and doing the technical work to kind of convert this into JORC. However, today we can see the outlines of an ore body, and we think that with that confirmation exercise, we'll be able to convert this into JORC relatively quickly. You can see I've put there an exploration target range, which basically flags, circa 100,000 ounces at around about that 2.5 to 3 grams per tonne mark. So what we're really flagging there is the potential for repeating the Cannon experience at our second project. Kawano's a bit of a sleeper inside our company. That's basically next to Silver Lake's operations. You can see there Santa Cruz and Maxwell's on the map on the Banded Iron Formation. We basically have all the rest of the Banded Iron Formation under tenure, which is to the east. Huge project, perhaps probably the most probable, in the opinion of the geologists in our group, probably the most probable in terms of finding something significant in terms of size in our portfolio in Australia. So expect to see a lot more news flow from this in the next 6 months. Transfine Extended was just an example of a deal we did with a prospector. So we talk to the prospectors. I see them as almost like, exploration guys that go out in the first phase and find things which are very interesting. Here we can go out and chip gold, chip rock at 50 grams per tonne at surface. There's visible gold in hand specimen just basically lying on the ground. So that's a really exciting project. And it's something that's very low-hanging fruit. We can go in there and do 2,000 metres of RC. It's probably not going to be a company maker, but it could actually be a small, very tidy, very profitable pit. So I've got 6 minutes to talk about Korea, which is probably not enough. You could probably spend 20 minutes talking about Korea, but a lot of people don't know much about Korea. But I say to people, think Japan, not Indonesia. Think North Asia, not Southeast Asia. Korea is a very, very different kettle of fish. It's a fully industrialised democracy. It's got a fantastic fiscal regime. There are no royalties, good government, good corporate tax rates, as you can see. incredible infrastructure. It's in many respects more advanced than Australia. So with that large manufacturing base and with its low cost base, we think that the hurdles to putting things into production will be relatively low there. Where we will have challenges is sourcing technical and mining capability. That's probably something that we'll need to import. But fundamentally, why did we go into Korea? Why is it of such interest? And it's really all about the fact of what I call ring of fire geology. So basically, not many people know this, but basically Ivanhoe Resources went into South Korea before they found Oryol Tolgoi in Mongolia. So this was on their radar screen very early on. And the feeling was that you've basically got a set of geology there which has the potential for world-class deposits and discovery. So you could talk about that in a technical presentation over 15 minutes, but the main takeaway for you is that it's a country that has really flown below the radar screen. It's got certain socio-political elements to it which make it quite difficult to penetrate. And that's to do with the tenure. You can see there that we've got 44 granted tenements that we acquired through the deal we did last year. Tenure is very hard to secure in Korea. If you go and look at any other ASX listed company that's got operations there, you will find that the tenure is very small. And there's a good reason for that. It's designed really for the prospectors. It's not really designed for modern miners. So I often get asked, why aren't the majors there? Why don't you have the Rio Tintos and so forth? The main reason is that you just can't look at an aeromagnetic map and peg a whole bunch of ground based on some sort of theory. It's really designed for prospectors, so the Rio Tintos of the world can't really peg large areas of ground. Therein lies an opportunity for a nimble junior, because you can actually peg ground as long as you're quite close to the system there and you've got good people on the ground. We do. We've got a whole bunch of projects there. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but to give you a flavour for it, we can see that there are sort of three main production areas that I've circled there. And this was something that we put in the ASX release when we announced this. And basically this should give you the sense that there's very large tonnages and pretty good grades there. I think the weighted average of the grade is about 13 to 15 grams per tonne. So this will be all narrow vein underground gold mining. But we can see here that already today the outlines of potential ore mineralisation at several of the projects. It will surprise people how quickly we'll get things into production, and Gubong is a potential example of that. So this was one of the main producers in the country, closed back in the late 80s. It's a system that's many kilometres in scale. You can see there's 9 tenements on the map to the left. To the right, I've put a rhomboid on the photograph to illustrate the position of vein 6. And basically it starts at that hill and it continues underneath the photographer for quite a few hundred metres. So it's a massive system. It's all open. We're going to go back there and do some work, but you can see there I've flagged the sort of scale and grade that we expect to get once we do further work there. I'll spend the last minute talking quickly about Waiyu South, because this is a really good example of the blue sky I was talking about at the very beginning of the presentation, and this is an example of the sort of things that we're finding there. We came into this project because of the gold, silver, germanium mine that's to the north, but Chris Bowden, who's our exploration manager in that photograph, he went down to the south, he found those carbonate boulders sitting on the ground, went up the hill to point B, found literally chip rock on surface that was going 1 ounce per tonne. We got cave explorers to go into a small adit at point C to see what was going on, and we've seen the vein in situ there. Last year, we brought in ex-Ivanhoe epithermal specialists, a guy who knows how to map altered volcanics. He's basically gone in there and put together and found multiple veins. So here we have a situation, you can see on the top right there, the sort of vertical relief that we're talking about with the hills there, but we're basically finding mineralised veins on surface, kilometre scale alteration, and huge amounts of vertical relief. So we haven't, and there's not a single drill hole in this mountain, by the way, not a single drill hole. So incredibly exciting project, and we think huge potential. There's some photographs of rocks. We love putting photographs of rocks in our ASX presentations, but that shows you the sort of, this is textbook low sulfidation epithermal rocks, so very, very exciting. I won't talk, I haven't got too much time, so I'll just skip through this, but basically Doug Kerwin is our advisor. He's also ex-Ivanhoe, as is Chris Bowden, our exploration manager, who did his PhD there. So we've basically assembled a small Ivanhoe team to do our work in Korea. I said I'd get to this at the end. 46 million shares out. We're trading at about 28 cents a share. Market cap is probably less than the cash that we'll get in the next 4 months. You get all the exploration option for free. What I call the 6+6, 6 Aussie projects, 6 Korean ones, high grade, very sexy, and a very long drilling program. We're going to be drilling a whole bunch of projects this year, lots of news flow, we're fully funded. It's going to be a pretty exciting year. Thanks very much.